welcome back to another episode of the Toxin Freeish Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Wendy, an environmental toxins attorney turned clean living coach. And today is the final episode in a 3-part series called Toxin Free Fails, where we're talking about when clean products don't work. And I'm explaining the science behind why and what you can do. Today's episode is all about deodorant. If you have tried to switch to clean, non-toxic deodorant and it leaves you a little funky, this episode is for you. If you haven't yet listened to the previous 2 episodes, episode 123 and 124, talking about shampoo and laundry detergent and those toxin-free fails, make sure to go check those out. But today we're talking about deodorant. If you are on YouTube right now, you can see my little show and tell. I brought 3 really popular deodorants with me. One of them is Primally Pure, which is the one I talk about the most, that I've used for years and years and years and that I absolutely love. I also have Just Ingredients, which is a magnesium deodorant. We're going to talk about that. And then lately I've been talking a lot about Kosas Sport and why that's so fantastic in really hot, humid climates and for the summer. So here's what we're going to do. First, I'm going to tell you why it's hard for clean deodorant to actually work and what you can do and what you can choose to make it work for you. So I can't have the conversation about how clean deodorants can work or don't work without talking about why conventional deodorants do work and why the transition is so difficult for people. So a traditional conventional antiperspirant, which means it stops you from aspiring, uses aluminum to clog the sweat ducts that are actually under your armpits. Most of them also use synthetic fragrances to mask any smells. Now, both of those are on my toxins to avoid list, so you're not going to want to use either one of those if you're looking for a clean option. But that doesn't mean you want your pits to smell bad. Sweat itself is actually pretty odor-free. It's the bacteria that's in your armpits that interacts with your sweat, and then it makes it have that like sulfur or acid smell to it. The bacteria that's under your armpit loves to thrive and grow and stink at a pH of about 5.5 to 7. But I want to be really clear. It is important that you let your body sweat. I know that it's something that we are just not comfortable with, right? We're so used to antiperspirants, but there are toxins like diethyl phthalates and certain heavy metals that are found in higher concentrations in our sweat than in our urine. So it is a detox pathway for toxins to get out of our body. So how do clean deodorants work? Well, I just told you, odor thrives in a pH between 5.5 and 7. So clean deodorants do one of 2 things. They either drive your pH up higher where that bacteria can't thrive, or they drive it lower. All right, I'm going to start first with Primally Pure and why it is a product that I really love, but maybe why it might not work for some people. So Primally Pure does 2 things. One, they have a little bit of baking soda in here. Now, there are brands that use a lot of baking soda, which is basically intended to just collect moisture and help you feel more dry underneath. But the amount that Primally Pure uses is really, really small. And that's important for me because I'm actually really sensitive to baking soda. When people switch to a clean deodorant that has a lot of baking soda, they tend to get a massive rash under their armpit. And take it from me, it is freaking painful. A rash under your armpit is so painful. So when I found Primally Pure, it made me feel really dry. And it does have a little bit of baking soda, but not enough to irritate me. And it has kaolin clay, which actually helps draw out any impurities and helps with that bacteria. It also has arrowroot, which helps with that moisture as well. Now, this is a really mild deodorant. On a normal given day, in normal weather or indoors, this works really great for me. If you're just an average sweater and you like not sweater like wearing a sweater, but like a sweater, somebody who sweats, if you're somebody who has average sweat coming out of your armpits and you like a dry feeling, this is a really good option. I just happened to get a bunch of extra in the mail. I use Primally Pure pretty much exclusively most of the year. Now let's talk about Just Ingredients because they use magnesium. And what magnesium hydroxide does is it boosts the alkaline, right? It boosts the pH all the way up close to 9. So at that really high pH, bacteria can't thrive. Because there's no baking soda in this, it doesn't have that powdery feeling. It's more of like a gel that goes on. People who are super sensitive to those powders or those clays or those baking sodas, they love this option. They love the magnesium hydroxide. It goes on really smooth and it works really well. The problem with using magnesium hydroxide is it tends to not work so great if you're a really, high sweater, if you sweat a lot, or if you're in a really hot climate. And I'm just going to be real honest when it comes to non-toxic deodorant. If you're somebody who just has average sweat coming out of you, you live in a very normal, mild climate, or maybe it's the winter time or springtime or fall time, you can get away with multiple of these products. And where non-toxic deodorant really starts to fail and gets really difficult is when it's the middle of the summer, when it's super hot, when it's super humid, or if you're somebody who's a super sweater or you work out a ton, and so you're regularly sweating because you're working out. So that brings me to Kosas Sport. Now, I just talked about this over on my Instagram, and I've got it linked in my Amazon shop because this is my new best friend. Okay, listen up. This is different than those other deodorants that I just talked about. They do the opposite. They take your pH way down. They use alpha hydroxy acids to drive it so far down that bacteria can't thrive at that lower pH level, which is the opposite of what magnesium does when it drives the pH up. And let me tell you, in the middle of the most humid Virginia summer where I am outside all the time and I am sweating buckets, this deodorant absolutely performs. It's a miracle. Like, it performs all day long. At the end of the day, I don't smell like anything. And I'm using the fragrance-free version. Now, their scented versions use botanicals and extracts, so it is clean. I just really like a fragrance-free option. So it works really well. But here's the downsides. So it's super acidic and it's also really exfoliating. So in a really hot, humid summer, or if you have a lot of sweat, it might work really well. But as soon as that temperature drops and you're not in that hot, humid environment, maybe winter comes around, the weather starts to get cooler, you're not sweating as much, your body heat is not as hot, it can start to really dry your skin. And so if you're somebody who has sensitive skin, who has eczema, or, even if you're not, this is something that's strong enough that can really irritate you in those colder months and when you're not sweating buckets. So it's taken me years to come to this conclusion, but what works best for me is 10 months out of the year, Primarily Pure works amazing for me. It keeps me really dry and it just absolutely works. I also love the way that all of it smells. Their lavender, their blue tansy, their citrus. It's just fantastic. And then this Kosas Sport is now my best friend when it's the 2 months of the hottest, humidest summer that I have going on. Or, if I go to the gym for like a hardcore workout, this Kosas Sport deodorant, that's my new best friend. But I definitely would not use this in the winter. So to wrap it up, the reason why you smell under your pits is because you've got bacteria and your pH is roughly around 5.5. So the way that non-toxic deodorants work is it uses ingredients to drive your pH either up or down, and both work. They just might work differently for different people depending on how much you sweat, what your bacteria load looks like, what your diet looks like, and what kind of geographic area you live in. Personally, what works for me is rotating what I need seasonally. And if you're brand new to the non-toxic deodorant situation, I highly recommend doing a pit detox. You can just get a clay mask. There's some really good ones at Primarily Pure and Evan Healy that are great. You can get some charcoal masks, or you can get some bentonite clay. There's a lot of things you can do to detox your pit. Give yourself a good couple weeks for your body to get used to the fact that you are now sweating. All right, that's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed this 3-part series on Toxin Free Fails, why certain clean products don't work, and what you can do to make it work for you. I had a blast, and if you want me to bring back this series, let me know. Hit me up over on Instagram. I really enjoyed this Toxin Free Fails series, and who knows, I might do it again. If you want more categories of fails and you want me to bring the series back, head on over to my Instagram at Wendy_Toxin Freeish. Send me a DM and let me know what category you want me to cover. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.